living where David.
My understanding is somebody bought that house where David lived and she's living with them.
Okay. It may not be the one I'm thinking of.
I think the other one we're gonna get worked out, I think.
All right, we are live and for the recording and the video and all of that, and I'll call the meeting to order at 4:29 PM. 4:30. We'll do the approval of the minutes of the October 3rd special call meeting that we did.
Yeah. I'll vote for that. Accept the notes.
Second.
Audit.
Second.
The second, Bill, motion, accept. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This point, we don't have any petitioners or visitors, so let's move on to the take a quick look at the financial report. Trial balance is laying right on top of mine, so we'll look at that first. The 9/30/24 balance in the bank is still $1,352,000, which has some of that grant money and everything in it. This time a year ago, we were at 811,747, so cash is still holding. Was looking through the trial balance and 5,000 payments we make to the city to reduce that. Fund they provide for us. Was not made until April 1st. We won't maybe spend thousands of dollars. So I hope we will have two payments with that fund, but it's down to about 300,000. So that's honestly no fair. On the water budget tracking report. Operating revenue is holding with budget of $474,000. And everything else is holding pretty much as way we budgeted for the water. We did have the grant revenue that's in there, which is pushed the balance of where we thought it would be. Looking down quickly at the expenses, the only thing that really jumped out at me was the water maintenance and repairs of the water system. Asked them to take a look at that, and the biggest portion of that is it's the payment we made to for the Merco, which was the work done on the trail over there, and there was the work that had been done in the well field. They said they stepped that up to that high, but we're still budgeted at about 250,000 there, so hopefully we don't have any more major repairs to do there. On the sewer budget, revenue is slightly ahead of what we budgeted at, but it's still holding. Very good. No real major repairs or anything in the expenses. They're pretty much staying within actually better than budget.
In this fiscal year,
uh,
we're,
let's say, Bill,
we're through 3 quarters now, right? July, August, and September. I mean, we're through 1 quarter, 1 quarter, okay. So when you think of compare those expenses, we hopefully are afforded those, in some cases of what they
what they'll need for the.
yeah.
Naturally, I think everything. I did want to welcome Bobby with us tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Got her seeing everybody off, but she's doing a good job. I can count them on one. Sorry. For some of that payoff, yeah.
We'll see at the end of the month.
No, seriously, we are getting. Doing a good job, Bobby. Spite of being dumped on my phone, so. All right, moving into the line items, in the world with the water sewer computer upgrade, and I know y'all had a.
We had a bid opening, but it was very hard to compare because some of the companies that sent in only do utility. Well, most of them only do utility, and we're wanting utility and city. So it was kind of like trying to compare apples to oranges. So anyway, the one company, Edmunds GovTech, that we've been so impressed with, we did a more extensive demo with them yesterday, and we were even more impressed with them. So I feel like the ladies and I are going to recommend that we go with Edmunds.
And they do utilities in the city.
They do it all, and it was really good.
So that's the one you've recommended so far.
It's the one that we recommended before.
Now it's got a plus.
And now they've got, yes, after we did a more extensive demo yesterday with them,
That's a lot better than the asterisk, right?
it was good.
Good, you really like it?
I did like it.
What's the name again?
It's called Edmunds GovTech.
They
What
were,
are they gonna actually, okay, you gotta fill me in on some of the stuff like this. What do they do? What is it? Is it like a billing and stuff like that?
It will be everything we do.
Like United Systems?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
that's what it'll be. And most companies we've looked at, they just don't do like the city side of things. They do the utility. Everybody wants to do the utility side of things. And so this company does it all. And I liked it.
So we need to hurry up and get it in here before you have to learn more about
I know.
the other system.
Now everything I know about United Systems,
It's-
out the door.
No, it won't be for probably 9 months to a year. That's how long it takes for them to do.
Really?
Yes. We were asking them, could you not do that a little quicker? And they said, probably not. So we probably would not go live with them for
A year.
probably.
I don't know, are they gonna be working on it during that period of time?
Mhm. Yeah, they'll be transferring.
Transferring
data
and,
and-
running test runs.
They said they want to know when we go live that things are working.
they were competitive on their bid.
They were.
Kill two birds with one stone here. So,
Yes.
yeah.
They were. I can't remember what it was, but
Okay.
yes.
It's significantly less on the annual than United Systems by $50,000.
Mhm.
They were good on that
A little
also.
bit higher on the startup, but not that much, but significantly less on the annual.
But you know what, something I was looking for, and I told the ladies, I said, I don't want, because we had some demos and they would say, well, yeah, we can do that. We can create that for you, whatever. I was like, I don't want anybody to create something or write a program because this is something I want. I want you to be able, when I say, can you do this? Oh yeah. And they pop that screen up. Here we go. This is how we do it. This is the module we have for that. And it's good to go. They've already worked their bugs out. They already have it. And
So the
that's how,
asterisk would be, yeah, I can do that for a price.
exactly.
Mhm.
But
So they've got
so with Edmunds, anything we asked yesterday, because John, Carrie, Allison, Jordan, and I sat in there and watched all this and we were asking all kinds of questions.
I said, Bobby, where they at? New Jersey, you live in, New York?
You know, I can't remember where they were. at.
I could be wrong.
New Jersey.
That's awesome.
Here's what the ladies brought that
Yeah,
up.
you're right.
Yeah, they're out of New Jersey.
But we love that we'll be moving to cloud-based and everything will be immediate. So like someone makes a payment, it's gonna pop up, show us. We can even click and say, do not do that cutoff. It'll send straight to you. We don't have to call you. Oh, there were so many things. Allison was wanting to hug the guy that was doing the demonstration. I told him, I said, Connor, he goes, is everything okay? I said, no, Allison wants to hug you. What?
You're gonna mess with them.
Tell her that.
Now, before he calls any of us, he tells the difference.
If y'all hear anything about a superintendent bid, you might.
I don't think we need to take any official action on this since Linda and John and all of them pushing it forward and the rest of it, but keep it rolling because just the one we know now is going to go away, and we've got to get it updated. I know it's difficult because personally I'm going to do the same thing. Everybody's got hauling software, but they don't have landfill software. You know, or it's something. So it's, where you going? Yeah. All right, looking at the project status update. We were talking about the Long Valley Road water main project a little bit beforehand. There. Hold up on that seems to be a couple of easements from, I got Chad to give me an update on everything, and seems to be a couple of easements, and then we're working on getting those easements. I don't know if you're working on the one.
I'm working on all of them. Yeah, we've rerouted some things. We've been working on this pretty diligently for a couple of months. And we've rerouted some things to avoid some issues. And we've been in communication with Dean.
Have we stemmed the tide of misinformation a little bit, or is that still an issue?
We don't know. We Marvin and Michael are the ringleaders, but there's not much ring for them to lead at this point. You're talking about up on Smith's property up on the corner?
Are we looking for some right of way that we're having some
Yes,
hesitancy?
yes,
I thought that went away.
no. On the said property down on the corner. We got an offer. We discussed it. We satisfied most of their requests and made
You made a counter.
a counter on a couple of requests.
Right.
That's right. And we're waiting to hear back from them. And I emailed Marvin today to ask him if he had heard anything from him, and I haven't heard back from him today. And on the Smith easement, I don't know. Honestly, I'm concerned about that one just because of who's involved, although maybe maybe I know someone who's related to the person that may be helpful. So, but I mean,
So
we'll make another.
There's the, this is a meeting, so we can talk about it. I mean, there's a perception or some people saying that if you allow an easement to go through, then you must be annexed, and that's simply not true. And if you allow an easement through your property, that you'll be forced to tie on, and that's simply not true. So, also, what it's gonna do for the existing customers and what it's gonna do for fire protection, just needs to be made clearer known and dispel the misinformation, and we'll go from there. And we got some people who know some people who might be able to get the door better open.
Maybe, and
It all started really back when people wells were the beginning to give way. And they wanted to get city water there, that's where, talked to me.
Right.
Way back.
Right. Right. And I've talked to Chad about the possibility of bypassing it. You know, what about another route? He said, well, I mean, his response to date, his response is, we can do it without that easement, but we don't get to loop. It's gonna, in effect, prohibit the loop, which defeats a lot of the benefit for
So
us.
there's a lot of
to do it.
hydrants up there. I don't know what the Gibbersville, fire department's gonna be able to do with the fire ratings up there, but there's gonna be a lot more hydrants, than what there currently are.
Yeah.
And the more reliable pressure when you have to use one. So that's all positives. And I think that the perception of negatives is what I'm calling misinformation, but that's a fun one from the pop culture right now. But, you know, we just need to clarify any questions and make sure it's.
Yeah.
And I'll repeat, Calvert City Council, since I've been involved with city government, we've never forced annexed anybody who didn't want to be annexed. As far as residential, for sure. And it's just, I don't know where that really stems from. I don't know where that attitude comes from.
Well,
We're a
if you-
utility business.
we're to a strange spot here. We're kind of down to bumper stickers and presidential campaigns. The truth kind of doesn't matter anymore. It's perception is everything. And we all sitting around this table know that water service has zero to do with annexation. But just because we know that doesn't mean the public perceives it. And that's kind of where we're hung right now. And when you've got, you know, conspiracy theory folks, and when you got folks
Well,
that,
we've got some people who've offered to talk to people who we haven't utilized yet, so.
right,
If we
well,
need to,
maybe.
this coming week, let's.
we're gonna find out, but maybe.
So we're gonna keep pushing on that one. The other one I was trying to get a handle on too, and I don't know if you Tim about this or not, but you had the smoke detection and all of the city sewer. You had some that had bad sewer, and there was gonna be letters sent out to these particular customers, asking them to get that repaired and fixed and so forth. And I don't know. There were names that dropped on. You'd speak to Bruce about it. Bruce said that he had been work with him on it, but they couldn't get together, so that. That's been done or not. But it really is a part of the agreement order, part of that testing and everything that we're doing. Need to get the letters at least out to these customers. Nothing. Say, hey. You look tested, you've got a problem. We need to get it fixed within X number of days. Or city takes repairing it, charging them back, or not if they don't do it within that 30-day limit, or what the next step is after the, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know either, but I can find out.
Spend some money to do smoke detecting to find these places that have I get into the sewer system.
I talked to Chad. He told me that there is, I guess, documentation of this stuff, and what was wrong and where. But Jim never told me about it, filled me in on something, so I don't even know where like the documentation is.
Just for generic conversation purposes. It's a violation of the ordinance to discharge anything other than sewage into the system. So if somebody is discharged, I mean, it's kind of it's the same statutes that prevent you from discharging chemical waste into the system. So if you're discharging stormwater into the system, it's the same deal. And our first line of enforcement is we shut off we put a basketball in your sewer line. That's what happens. You don't get to discharge until you stop discharge, until you fix the situation.
Well, we
with
haven't got,
discharge.
I don't think we've got the first level of notification out yet before we get, that's way on down the road.
Right, but just in
Yeah.
answer to your question, I don't know the details of what that procedure would look like. But I mean, certainly because it's Calvert City and we're nice people, the first thing you do is notify everybody and see if they'll fix their problem. If they
Yeah,
won't
we've
fix
got to
their
lay
problem,
hands on the list and the details.
Yeah.
Get a letter, send it off, and we'll have compliance.
If you don't have it done at your place, Chad's got it.
Okay. I'll call
They
him,
were
he
the
might
one-
have it somewhere.
They were the one that did all the testing.
Yeah, I knew that I did. I've noticed all the white flags. One of the things, because usually they have notes about what they take to do. I ain't seen it.
Right. Moving on to the Cypress Lakes meter easement, there's another easement problem there. I think we've got to work around on that easement. Greg, you involved with that?
well, I've gotten some emails, but I've not been involved in it. Yeah. The last thing I got was the email from Chad that I think you got, that it was somebody, the guy that owned that property said he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, with yours to meter box for the meter on this property, people not want to do that. So, to avoid the easement where we can start on the bypass line on the road side of the Michigan Bank. And at that time, the city should locate the existing main to confirm the actual location inside of the bulk, on bulk. And next, the city can either contract, area contractors performing the installation or simply purchase the materials from the representative. What we're trying to do is to get one meter
For that whole.
for the whole complex, because there's complexities with where the line runs, where the people's trailers are. It's a mess there. Just the.
And I'm pretty sure we can install that meter straight on the main. Cause that main is off the road. I'm 99% sure.
So I don't know exactly what that is.
Around the corner.
You were probably on the ground.
Yes.
Influence lift station is continuing to move forward with Travis. We're still having some discussions back and forth between the bonding company and everything, but so far our instructions to Travis is to proceed, be done, be finished. Sent out it. Hopefully. On the lagoons for the halos. Chad says that he has got a new bid package worked up that he's going to be sending out to 3 bidders. Clean Air and Water, RTD Enterprises, and EFI. Rebid, and when they come back with the bid, he'll make a decision there. Get that, hopefully get those halos installed. Water plan and service pump replacement. We have that, ongoing, Chad is reviewing the drawings that have been submitted by Lane for this project. He's stating that we would have about, $80,000. I'm reading correctly. Yeah, 80,000 remaining in the funds for the installation of the pump. We can't transfer the funds to another project because it's too late, but as long as we keep it in the plan, there should be no issues utilizing that money. And I was thinking on that,
Yeah, the actuator.
the actuator, something with the down, that could be, honestly,
That would be awesome.
the flag raise that. What we found is in the filter house, actually. Found all that are old style, outdated, and they're having to stretch the safety limits to make them work and whatever, so Bobby's got people working on getting that repaired so that we're safe and then up to date with that. I mean, they're using butterfly valves and that now, so. But that's one thing I had thought about. There may be something else that we need to do over there as well too.
Yeah, I know those, maybe like the backwash valves and stuff like that, I think we could use that for.
Right.
That would be really great.
Get that up. It's not. Rivercrest is working and has done some more conceptual plans and review for the water and sewer for the Marshall gaming operation. They're gonna stay in touch with them as they go through and work through whatever they're gonna do, wherever they're gonna do it. And then as we know, the Kentucky Dam Village sewer connection that we've been talking about for a long time now is still ongoing, but we're waiting for flow data and a report from Strand and Associates. So that we know what the flows are and how they're gonna impact those pumps, lift stations in that area are gonna be really getting impacted quite heavily here pretty quickly, so we
I
may
know
have
that
to make some
62 lift
changes.
station might need to be modified, at least a box, I know, that way we can get another one of those homer pumps in.
Right.
We've got that one right now. It'd be nice to have a second.
Cause for Tim, we got, to was telling me because of if you put the Kentucky Dam flow in there and you put this potential Marshall gaming flow in there and all it comes through one particular pump station that could be needing modifying and so forth, so. And Chad is aware of all that, so he will keep us out of trouble, hopefully, on that. So,
I talked to the park guys yesterday. In Frankfurt, and they want to be out of the waste treatment bit. I said, keep building your infrastructure, solve the problems. I think they're making pretty good progress. Let's get this going, so. They're motivated, and I told the Parks Commissioner that we have concerns. That if they don't comply, then what's gonna be our repercussions to get them to comply with bringing us the proper input to our plan. And so, I mean, he hears it. I said, negotiation of the contract is gonna be important. How you remedy disputes and who pays for what. So he heard me. I don't have any solutions for him, but he knows it's an issue coming up, so.
You know, as we approach that issue, we probably ought to keep in mind that with all of this consolidation talk that keeps coming out of Frankfurt, if this works out, that we wind up taking the state's waste, we may want to build some stuff into that agreement with the state that protects our sanctity a bit. Just, I'm not making any suggestions, just food for thought. Keep it in the back of your mind that it does create some, it is a bit of negotiation leverage for us as we approach this.
Yeah, I worked at that park, I saw how infrastructure was treated. It wasn't particularly good, when the economy's good, when they have money flowing, it's great. But if the economy goes south, you start cutting budgets, cut some maintenance on those things. And so that would be my concern. Are they going to do their part to maintain? And in the part that we share, who maintains it? It's always the concern. But we talked about at one point that they would build a lift station, but the question was not answered by anybody. Who would maintain it? And we all felt it was going to end up on us. But these are all things that they can address. And Bobby, you should think out for down the road. Be
Yeah.
well aware of your workload.
Yeah, I just got filled in with all this stuff not too long ago.
Well, the good news is we're still a ways away,
Yeah.
but you just keep building your body of knowledge.
Yeah.
And keep asking questions. Because we know where the rubber meets the road. Right
Yes.
here, we know.
Exactly. We'll do it.
All right, we're waiting on some samples to come back on the LWD cutoff road. See what's over there, what impact on the water line down there would be. And then we still got to look at doing finishing up the Oak Park meter main relocation. It's in the budget for this year at some time, so it's not a urgent thing, but it needs to be done. Greg?
Yeah.
You've got the Duke Energy TVA contract.
Yeah,
Have you
I've,
spent some time with that yet?
yeah, I have. I've studied the contract. I've talked to Tim, talked to Bobby. I'll do this the way I would want it done if I were sitting in your chair. I'll tell you the answer and then I'll tell you why I think that's the answer. I think TVA, Duke initially, and now TVA is as surprised with the situation we find ourselves in today with basically a non-operating electrical generator as we are. Nobody was thinking about that in 2001 when we were doing this agreement. That was not part of the picture. The contract is drawn to protect, basically to protect Duke at the time, to make sure that they were going to have enough water to operate and they weren't going to get in trouble if they spent the money to build this thing. Well, that's not the problem now. The problem is more, generally speaking, to the effect that we're maintaining a pump, a well, a pump, lines to provide nominal water. And Tim is of the opinion that that's not operating water. And for all of those, and basically related to all of that is, I think what we need to do, I think the answer is for us to go to TVA and say, we need to look at this contract and renegotiate it and make it and create a contract that actually fits the situation that we're living in now. I will honestly be surprised if TVA doesn't go along with us on that, because as it's drawn now, it doesn't really serve their purposes either. A couple of years ago, we ran into the situation where we were thinking about providing water for Arkema, and we didn't know if we could use the raw water out of that line, or is that going to interfere with, encroach upon, and that we're going to run into that over and over. And we've got a dedicated line capable of producing 1,000 a minute and at a maximum of 1.44 a day. And we're spending, they're using less than 100,000 a month. And Tim honestly was not really sure what that's being used for, but it's certainly not, it's not production money. It's not producing electricity. And honestly, I don't know. I don't understand, not being the engineer, I don't understand exactly what's going on out there, but they are producing some peak time electricity just to supplement, is my understanding.
Well, it's a natural gas peaking plant.
and natural gas.
And the original need for Duke was to provide processed water for times when they were on, fuel oil.
Right.
They got a fuel oil system. They've got fuel oil tankage. TVA operates the plant now. And so the infrastructure that Duke entered into the agreement for us to provide the water that they needed for in process. It's in the contract. It cost us quite a bit of money and ultimately should cost TVA quite a bit of money. So the conversation centers around, does TVA even still need that contingency?
Right.
Is that part of what they need to have provided? And if their business plan says they need that, then we need to, for us just to decide unilaterally, which we're not gonna decide anything unilaterally, that's what a contract, make sure that you don't. To say, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore, you just made the decision for the customer that they don't have that capability. We've gotta ask them, do you need this or not? And if you do, then we need to renegotiate, see how much it takes to get there from here.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And being an attorney, an argument could be made that part of the premise for this contract was they were going to operate this plant. Well, they're not operating this plant. They've never, to my knowledge, according to Tim's knowledge, my knowledge is Tim's knowledge. They've never operated. They've never made any fuel oil.
Right.
Electricity. And
Duke
so,
never has, and thus TVA never has.
right,
Well, their intent was never
What
to
do you
use
say?
the fuel oil as a primary source.
right.
The
Okay,
natural gas is the primary fuel that they would prefer to use, but if the demand was there and the natural gas wasn't, then they could run on fuel oil, or if the prices were to go upside down, they could run the place on fuel oil, but natural gas is definitely, they're gonna be their primary fuel source.
so going back to your original assumption, then the idea would be they would be using lots of water. We'd be getting revenue from that.
Right.
The time our staff does to maintain it would be justified and
Right,
we'd
that's the
be creating
justification.
money. But
Right.
right now it's a losing proposition.
Very much so.
Okay.
And the timeline, what was the timeline on that agreement? It's
30 years.
Okay,
And
so
we're-
it hasn't expired. It
No.
just was, was there legal language when TVA bought this from Duke that
Yes,
put
yeah,
TVA
there was an
to
assignment.
transfer the contract?
The original contract was assignable and then there was a written assignment made.
Okay.
And it was done in 01 and we're sitting at 04. And the original term was 30 years. But with the right to extend for 10 if you jump through the right hoop, if they jump through the right hoop,
So it's 2001,
2001.
so we're 2024.
2031, 7 more years.
Before, yes,
Well, they
and
assigned it.
maybe 41 because they've got a possibility of a 10-year
Oh, the
extension.
contract original is 2001.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I thought you said the assignment. When did the assignment take place?
Assignment took place
It
in,
wasn't long after that. I don't remember when I read it. It was just a few years after Duke got out and TVA took it over. I think.
I've got. I'll have to look through the file.
Okay,
You don't want to sit and watch me look through the file.
no. So we got
I
an
don't know
assignment
what-
clause that was exercised and,
Yes.
and I believe Mr. Freeman was asking what kind of clauses you have to renegotiate or end or whatever.
Well, yeah, the termination is at 30 and then 40 years.
So if we don't have that clause in there, then they can say, well, we'll talk to you when the contract expires.
Well, they can. But then we would have to decide. Do we want to push back a little bit and say, wait a minute, the contract as drawn is arguably unenforceable. Because it's failed of its essential purpose. It's one of the preambles to the contract was that they're going to operate this plant. Well, they're not. And so that at least gives us an argument that the contract should not be enforceable under the terms because it makes it effectively it's impossible. It's sort of like when you when you contract to put a building in, and then when you get a foot underneath the surface, you find a marble interference. Then the courts will say, well, yes, even though it is possible, if you use enough dynamite and go to enough expense, you could build this thing here. It's not practically possible. And so the court rules on the basis of impossibility that the contract's not enforceable. So that kind of stuff, at least,
What court would that be in?
well,
Would that be in a federal court? or would
could
that-
be because TVA is involved.
It could be years and years.
It could be, yeah, it could be a real problem.
Well, are you sure they have not operated? Because I think they do
Well,
operate it occasionally,
they-
and burn diesel and also
Oh,
burn gas as well.
gas they have burned. I think according to Tim, all I know is what Tim knows.
Okay,
Tim thinks, yeah, they're burning natural gas,
right.
but to his knowledge, they've never burned fuel oil, diesel,
Which is the process water.
which is why they needed the water.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what TVA has in their ultimate, whatever strategic plan it would be for this plant. I mean, if we were to have the big earthquake, would natural gas still be available? And if it weren't, could you get any fuel oil across the bridges? I mean, it's, you never know what TVA has got on their situational plan, but for us as a supplier, we've got problems. And so we're looking at this contract for enforceability and renegotiation. Greg's gonna study it, and then we've got to figure out what we want. This is really meats and potatoes, it's utility board, and what is it we need to recoup on this to get our operational.
Do we have a
Sequence of
identified
control.
contact with TVA on this? We know who we need to go to.
I don't know, Bobby. Do you?
I mean, we got numbers for people, but I don't know who you want. I mean, we have like supervisors and stuff.
The guy with Duke that we originally started with is
Right.
nowhere in the
exactly. I mean,
picture.
Unless they got numbers out there that you can call for TVA,
Yeah.
but as for us, like, we just got like on-site supervisors.
I'd be
Well-
kind of first myself I'd take to find out who I need to talk to.
Isn't there a guy that's on the board that used to be at
Wade
Ryan
White,
County?
Wade
Yeah.
White's on the board.
Mhm.
So I would say that we haven't, I don't think, Calvert Utility, utility has gone and tried to make contact with them yet to talk to them. We're still talking about it internally.
Mhm.
And it seems like we may be ready to make a phone call just as soon as Greg gets us some light with the contract. And need to know where we stand before we start really talking.
The assignment was done in December of '06.
But, they've come to the city, recently and, donated some, equipment to the fire department. They've been active on some LEPC stuff. I think TVA is gonna look favorably at
Yeah.
working together. I really do. It's just a matter of us knowing what their mission is and their current plan and figuring out how to get this done.
As Mike was talking about right now, gas is cheaper. And you also get into some environmental problems if you start using fuel gas that you wouldn't want, but who knows if another administration comes in. It might not look that way. So, I don't know that.
Well, yeah, I think TVA is a pretty big leader on sustainability and idea that they're gonna do fuel gas. For fuel, that's right up there next to coal, which they're phasing out of. They're gonna want to stick on natural gas to try to keep it to a minimum as well. So I think that that's where the business is going. But we haven't talked to them.
Greg, that lady that we've been communicating with could get you to the right person too,
Yeah.
cause she's.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be a major problem to find a human being. We'll just have to make some phone calls and narrow it down.
But Mr. White can certainly, if we can't find one, Mr. White can certainly find some.
Yeah.
I guarantee that.
It's nice to have somebody close by.
Yeah, it is. That's a pretty important, position actually.
Do you want to start there?
With Wade?
Mhm.
Not really. Let's start and see if we can work up through the chain of command before you
Okay.
go down. I mean, it's always better to work with the ones responsible instead of from the top down.
Okay, you want to
We
make
gotta
some phone
decide
calls
what
to
we
see?
want to, we gotta decide what we want to see happen. And what we want to see happen, and we want to see the terms of the contract redrawn up so we can continue to pass on cost and be as reasonable as we can about minimizing the cost for everyone.
Right.
But, we don't want to try to attain a level of service they no longer need, and then sit there and have that cost, and we'll try to pass that on. So we just need to have a dialogue. But what's the renegotiation deals with this contract? If you outline one consideration. And so we just, it seems like we're ready for maybe a phone call.
Okay.
Cause if that line is available for us to use in other areas and still supply them with water, we can, it's my understanding that there, we can make a loop out through there, which would make the plants and everything completely better.
A raw water loop? Their line is still raw water, isn't it? It doesn't pass through.
No, it's straight raw, water. It's
It's
straight.
straight water.
I think there have been times in the past where I think we have actually supplied some treated water just because, I don't know,
I
maybe,
don't know.
I think maybe because the line was plugged or, I don't think it's been much, but we're supposed to supply raw water.
Well, we need we're looking for economic development out there. We've had some conversations with particular clients that would increase the water demand quite a lot. And that was some hydraulic modeling that was done. If we utilize that line instead of being dedicated to one, what if we utilize that for loop?
Right.
And that's a direction we're going ultimately, and that's a very functional line. It gets at, from a the main water distribution area out to that industrial loop, and it's a very important segment. So infrastructure for us, it could hold a lot of promise in the future. It's good to know how it stands. And so that came up with our conversations with one of our industrial customers about increasing their water supply by a great deal. That was one possible solution that we came up with. And actually, we had elected to, probably the best alternative was replacement of another line, but it was considered. And if you look down in certain geographies, utilizing that line for a loop is actually more favorable. Okay, so it's a valuable, we need to figure out where that asset lies and what the flexibilities with it are. But Greg's gonna look through that contract. Is there a deliverable that you're waiting that we've asked you for?
No, I've just delivered it.
Okay,
That's where we are. And so,
so there's not a clause for severability clause,
mhm,
but we look at the whole basis of the contract and say that it was never really actualized, and so
right.
trying to hang on to that for 30, if that'd be our argument. So you're ready for a conversation with TVA. We want to have it.
Right.
Okay.
Are we looking at a way of using our effluent for this?
They don't have a demand down there. They're not burning fuel oil, but that'd be great. That makes the project a little more sexy, doesn't it? But no, they haven't got a use that's gonna help us. We got the effluent from the waste treatment plant's gotta go somewhere, and with a sporadic use of it, that's gonna create some problems. We still have to go where we're going with it, but we'll get to talking to them and iron that out. I think we can easily find a person through the chain of command, and they've been, I probably do have that phone number somewhere in my pile of stuff. But they made a donation recently of a phone trailer to the fire department. And they're really ramping up their community relation efforts. So I don't anticipate any issues. We just need to know what we want to talk about.
And it seems like, they're investing in that plant and keeping it open and keeping employees there. Even though it's, from what I hear, it rarely runs at all, even on natural gas.
Yeah.
Even the peak is pretty low, so it would stand to reason that they would probably be also willing to, they're gonna want that water available if they should need it. And I think they would be more than open to negotiate and try to, to make that right. And I would have to assume that even not running fuel oil, that the plant would use a lot more of that raw water. If that original contract was drawn up to use a lot of water when they were thinking they were gonna run that thing a lot, I'm not 100% sure that they only use water when on fuel oil. I think they have cooling towers and things that if that plant were running more often, then they would probably be needing that water, even if they were running it on natural gas.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
and that-
There's for given production rates, there's a given,
Right.
look at the chart. They'll tell you how much water consumption will be.
Right, because I'm sure they have cooling water on those turbines, and regardless, they may use more on fuel oil for atomizing purposes or something. Yeah,
Tim was of the opinion that he might have been using it for fire protection. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but he thought that they may have on some of their lines that they may have to be keeping things, particular areas particularly clean, so they don't get buildup of flammables, combustibles, whatever. Um,
there's also lots of things like. Where I work, we used to have fuel oil boilers and there's regulations and things that say you have to run them on fuel oil once a year. Even if you don't ever want to use it, as long as that system is in place, you have to fire them up and run them so long and prove that they will run on it. So they may be using some of that 100,000 that you're talking about
Yeah.
for a, yearly, monthly, TVA sometimes has even more stringent rules. They may be having to fire those things up on fuel oil.
Yeah.
Periodically
Manual.
to satisfy some legal.
Yeah, it's a conversation. What's their normal usage and needs? And then, by the way, what's your contingency needs and where do we go? It's a very straightforward concept.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So continue on, Greg, I guess it's word. Also, you and I talked a little bit, and I know just before you left, but procedures and policies and ordinances and so forth for the water and sewer board. I've gotten the opinion from various ones that have not been updated to help a guy like Bobby know what he's supposed to do and say and get clarification. So and you indicated you might have done some of that. But
Well, we
have
did
not
do,
done-
we did do some of it, particularly with regard to chapter 30. Or article 3 of the ordinances, and article 5, we did not, article 50, chapter 50 and 5. We did not, and the policies, we're still sort of in a state of flux. We have Bobby now. We don't know for sure how we're lining up, but I think Gene's getting a better feel for what he's intending to do.
Yeah, we're having some conversations on how we're gonna bring in admin of the water department into overall city,
Right.
City operations.
And they are gonna have to be reworked. Just because we don't know if we've got general managers or superintendents or what we've got. But you don't wanna have to redo it, you don't wanna redo them a dozen times. So we're sort
But I
of,
mean, we're sitting here fluctuating around for a period of time.
yeah,
And leadership has been questioning been making decisions and stuff that's critical.
Yeah.
But it's not on any ordinance or any policies or procedures.
well, at
So,
this
I mean-
point, it helps a little bit that the buck stops right there in that corner. Ultimately,
I'll be leaving now.
yeah.
Well, I think the
And- well, that
message,
helps.
the message here is it needs to happen sooner rather than later. We've had some churn and some flux and different things. We just need to go through them line item by line item. Now, how do we eat that elephant?
Mhm.
I'm asking you.
Oh, well, we've got 2 sections of statutes. We need to look back through 30 and make sure we've got everything. Well, we don't because everything in chapter 30 at this point is keyed in on a general manager. Well, I'm not sure if we're gonna have a general manager or what exactly we're gonna have. But we may need to rework 30 a little bit, depending upon what the immediate plan is. And then we need to look at 50, because 50 is where you find a lot of enforcement stuff. And we will need to make those revisions. And then as far as the policies are concerned, I mean, those are the mayor's policies. And so those are easy to fix. I mean, he can fix those with a strike of a pen. But basically, you and I are gonna have to get together, Gene, at least long enough for you to tell me what you want with regard to those policies. And,
Well, I'm kind of thinking of it differently in my gray matter, and that's a scary thing to reveal to people, but. Items that we have that are commercial. Practices that we have. Some of them need to be reevaluated if that's where we need to be commercially. One of the ones that's been brought to me, and this is outside of any change in leadership or whatever. you know, when we go inactive on a meter, somebody calls, I'm inactive, I just turned it off. Just put me on inactive, but yet. Is that feasible, or should we be, you know, I didn't even know you could do it, and that's why I gotta get involved. You call in, I'm gonna go inactive. They don't even pay a minimum bill.
I know.
Meters in place, meters there, and you're not even paying a minimal bill.
Or the $5 on the meter. You know, we got that fee, everybody else pays.
That's an issue that I don't ever remember having been addressed by any policy,
I don't-
anywhere.
Well, this is hearsay. This is things that people are talking to me, and I haven't seen the
I've
printed
never heard that
policy.
situation.
It's been a
before.
complaint. It's been a
Well,
complaint.
if people go to Florida for their winter break, they call and say. Make
Turn the
my
water off?
water off. If I've got a sprinkler meter and I call in and say, turn it off because I'm not gonna use it over the winter. That meter's sitting there on the water meter.
So
I
that,
don't
that
pay
is,
anything for that meter or anything for that water meter, sprinkler meter. That has cost the water sewer.
so whichever ordinance we have, it outlines fees.
Yeah.
Need to be reevaluated, to see if it's still, and that's what we need to talk about. That's the meat and potatoes of this group of people for, you know, recommendations on that. That's just one.
Yeah.
That's just one of them. So if the meter's still in place, you haven't pulled the meter set. You can go out there and turn it on, use it when you need it, turn it back off. And then, you know, you can get out of paying a water bill for, you can get out of paying minimum fee for some number of months.
Yeah, when did that
And then
start?
when you turn it back on, the totalizer, you're ultimately.
They've done
gonna
that
pay
ever
for your
since
water at
I've
some
been
point.
here.
But so there's a lot of games that can be played, and there's enforcement of, you know, does everyone have a cutoff valve? You know, what our ordinance says you're supposed to have a cutoff valve for your main house, and I know there's many places around that don't. They still use want to use the meter as the cutoff valve for water to the house.
Well, I think that, I mean, if somebody called me and asked me those questions, I strongly suspect that those issues are addressed by the ordinance itself.
Okay.
And if you're a customer, you're a customer. You pay whatever the fees are. And however we got to the point, I don't know if that was done in the 80s. I don't know when all that occurred where somebody can say, turn me off for the winter, I'm not gonna pay a minimum fee. I don't know how that ever got to the top, but that doesn't sound like, that
We need
sounds
to
like
read
it's
the
in
ordinance.
violation of the ordinance, frankly.
Okay. Well, we need to review it.
Yeah.
And bring that to policy and practice in the office. And in the field.
Yeah.
Because the field responds to office directives.
That one in particular, I don't think needs policy. I think we just need to enforce the ordinance unless you want to change it.
But that just stood out as an example. I don't know what else is out there.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay, that's just one example that somebody's talked to me and it seems very reasonable to me. But it is a practice and so.
And some of the ones I was talking about are the ones that was written, particularly when Roger was here, who as the general manager has the authority to make decisions with the ladies
Right.
in here in the office, and it still says in there, the general manager makes that decision. Well, Carrie and the girls or Bobby, the superintendent's making decisions with no
authority.
authority,
So without a.
but it
general-
has to be done
Without a
because
general manager, how do you change the breakdown of the duties that are part of the recognized duties or part of the ordinance? So going down through that with the fine tooth comb,
Yeah.
making that call.
Needs to be done.
Did I get that right?
yes.
How you want to proceed with that?
Well, how do you eat the elephant? How do we get down through that? How long does it take?
To start or
How
to
many
finish?
pages? How many pages?
There's no telling.
Okay.
A lot.
And I'm not even sure who's got a set of ordinances in
Well, I've got the ordinances, the policies
I mean, I had a set at one time and I think you've got my set,
of policies or of,
policies and procedures, yeah.
okay. Policies, I've probably got most of the policies. I know Roger used to carry them around in a notebook.
Well,
There's a notebook here somewhere that's got all of what Roger thought what the policies were. I've got, I think, all the policies on my computer.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
the-
not the fire.
but the ordinance.
it digitized and it's in law.
I don't see, yeah.
Oh,
I'm not sure you got one.
I don't.
well, we have what digitized in the city hall? The policies?
Or
No,
Yeah.
the ordinances, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have all the
Yeah,
ordinances
the ordinances are the law and
I
the
have
policies
them.
and procedures are the internal
in the vault,
regulations.
a paper copy.
But to answer your question, yes, the policies are gonna be written and on the main server somewhere. If they aren't now, they're gonna be.
I wish I had a book of all the policies.
I can give you a bunch of them.
Okay.
And honestly, Roger, I think Roger had more than I have. He had some that were.
It's my
more
understanding
obscure.
that the Rogers laptop and that his book was to Silas, was in the office. I doubt Tim ever cracked that open at all. So you should be in the possession of that, of everything we got. Paperwork wise. And that we will have to get together and get the bottom of that.
And Roger can point that out.
And there's a couple of people we can talk to. Roger and Silas. If Silas speaks, but you have to call Silas and pick up the phone.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
And just so you guys understand, ordinances are passed by the city council, policies and procedures are internal regs that are now passed by the mayor. Prior to that, were adopted by this board, and they're just internal operating procedures.
And that's what I'm, more or less what I'm talking about is there's a whole some loops here that people don't have.
Yeah.
People have changed in there, the girls have changed. We've changed management.
But when did Roger leave?
I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least 6 years ago. something like that.
Mhm.
In the interim, before we get that done, call me. Call me if there's a policy, if you need to know what to do on an issue, call me. And I'll tell you if we have a policy on it.
So step one, to eat an elephant, is lay our hands on the body of stuff to be eaten.
I
Sounds,
mean, I had a notebook that had all those kind of things in it. John Ward wanted to see it. I brought it up here and left it with him. And it disappeared out of his office. Which he said
didn't know
he
where it is.
thought he gave it to you.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know where it was.
So number
I should have
one.
never turned loose of it.
Yes, number one is find the elephant. Find the elephant.
correct.
Find the elephant, scan the elephant. We don't have it here. I've got a scanner that will eat it alive. That is.
Yeah.
Is it organized by water and sewer ordinances or?
Ordinances or policies?
I don't know.
They're two very different things. The ordinances are in the ordinance books.
I have all.
Yeah, the ordinances
Ordinance
are no
is
issue.
probably not a problem. It's the procedures.
Well,
back
the ordinances
and
are
forth.
an issue in as much as they address superintendent stuff, just like somebody was just saying.
We are needing a policy on what to do procedurally when we determine there is a mishandling of a sewer tie-in. When we have the smoke test that says, what is the policy when you make a customer aware of what's going on, if there's a need for a policy there, probably there's not one. Notice I said probably, but what do we do? What do you do?
Cause the ladies in the office have been dealing with what was his name? Mike. I don't, his name is,
No, we're not gonna talk about customer, but there's a customer issue that they're trying to get to the bottom of and they're needing help, right?
right?
Okay.
They've already made what they think is the proper call, but the guy still is complaining about and asking for an additional. He's already had adjustments because of a swimming pool and because of a leak and some other things on his sewer bill of $324.70. And his last water bill is water bill, not sewer. Water bill is he owes another 160, 150, yeah, 164. And he's still upset about that and they talked to Bobby about it
Yeah.
but
What I don't get is, he had this leak. But he had his own shut off at the meter, and he never shut it off. That's what I don't. Get. So how can he complain about having a high water bill when he could have shut his own water off? You know what I mean? And we've already adjusted it from like $500.
Well, I don't, a lot of personnel changed. But since I've been mayor, I've played referee on situations like this, and this is the first time I've heard about this one.
I've
So
never-
we'll get to the bottom of that.
like, I mean, I'm just saying this is the kind of stuff that ladies are dealing with and they don't have.
Need chain of
Well,
command. so you
that
get the name.
particular
Get
issue
an
was
answer.
addressed in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Do I?
I mean, I said that particular issue was addressed in the ordinance. When you have an excess.
Well,
usage of
it's a
water.
leadership issue. There's two things. One is who's got the duty, which is the leadership issue. You got a division of tasks from a former position we don't intend to fill as general manager, at least don't intend to fill right now. So where do the job duties break down? And then they just need some guidance and leadership. And this is just one example. And there's other examples every month, I'm sure.
I mean, they brought this to my attention because they thought the guy was gonna show up tonight at the meeting. Yeah,
That's what they told me.
Wish you would.
Really fun.
but he
Said I
had.
wish you would.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, but anyway, we just need to. Move on and get that.
Yeah, but don't guess. Call.
Next item on the agenda was a talk with, with Bobby here, Gene and I and him talked and he has been authorized to find two more workers. One being a machine who has experience in machine operations. And another one as a laborer to fill in some of the gaps that we've got in the operation. So I think he's moving forward with that. We need to post openings. We've seen some resumes Bobby has that he's got some people he's interested in, but till we post it, he
Yeah, I'm holding off until we actually put it out.
put it out. And I'm sure as time goes on, he will be looking to get the water and the sewer back
So whose role is that?
to the road.
Superintendent, general manager, posted. Whose role is it to post? Yeah.
Carrie will help.
Gary will help PMS superintendent to get that done, but it is gotta be.
So we got to backfill Bobby. And then we've got to find a laborer. We got to get some postings out. So John helps on some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Between John and Carrie.
Glenn is, did we get squared away that Glenn's coming back on night duty?
Yes. He was here today. He was
Here today.
yesterday.
Yeah. Fine.
So Glenn has been off because of shoulder surgery and everything. Rotator cuff, and he is now back on light duty, which will help a little bit because he can do paperwork and he can also supervise one of the new employees relative at the sewer plant for doing labor work for him. And so that'll be a boost.
That's
Bobby
a
as
load
well.
off my shoulders right there.
Yeah.
So he's on light duty, so he's got half a job. His other half a job is training the new guy. He's gonna tell him what to do to make sure he doesn't have to pick up over 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
But
So it's actually, the best timing, so.
No, this is great. He had weight on with him and he's going.
So he's got a 10-pound weight restriction. And his admonishment is, thou shalt not go above your 10-pound weight restriction. And we have training needs too, and we're shorthanded. And, so he's in on a light duty.
So. Got any comments, Bobby? And I'll let you off the net, but.
I thought I spoke up pretty much.
No, you did. Just,
No, not at the moment, I don't.
right. Anything, Bill?
No.
Michael?
Just say, as Greg brought up, Mayor, appreciate you being here like you've been here for the water board. It's, I think, a real asset to us.
Well, we've got to, thank you for that, but we've got to straighten up some of these issues, and these are people trying to do the jobs and knowing what to do, and it's a leadership issue.
That's all I have.
Barry?
Congratulations, Bob.
Mhm.
We met with them Monday afternoon, right? So we met with water personnel on Monday afternoon. Let them know. Kind of reinforce, support Bobby, talk to them about what's going on.
Anything else, Greg? You hadn't been?
Probably, but nothing I can think of right now.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Uh,
By the way, you guys
Take this
have,
off the live.